Hi y'all, this is Larry at Deep South, Texas. Today we're going to make Colby cheese. Now Colby is, as I recall, a real mild cheese, somewhat like cheddar but very, very mild. My father used to eat this cheese back 50 years ago. I haven't had any for quite some time. So let's give it a try. And the ingredients are 3 gallons of whole milk, 1 packet of direct set mesophilic starter culture, Annatto, calcium chloride, and rennet. So into the double boiler goes our 3 gallons of whole milk, and we are going to heat this up to 30 degrees centigrade. The milk has reached 30 degrees centigrade, which is 87 Fahrenheit. So now I will add the mesophilic direct set culture. And I'm just sprinkling it on top. I'll let it set for 5 minutes to rehydrate, and then I'll stir it in. It's been 5 minutes and the culture's had time to rehydrate, so now I will stir it in. And once we get that all mixed in thoroughly, then we will let this set for 45 minutes. It's been 45 minutes, so now I will add the rest of the ingredients. The first thing to get added is the annatto. It's 3/4 of a teaspoon of annatto in a 1/4 cup of water. Quite a bit of annatto. It's going to be a pretty orange cheese. I'll get that mixed in thoroughly, and then I will add the calcium chloride. And the calcium chloride was also 3/4 of a teaspoon of calcium chloride in a 1/4 cup of water. So let's put that in now. Get that thoroughly mixed in. And then the final item to add is the rennet. And again, it's 3/4 of a teaspoon of rennet in a 1/4 cup of water. Let's go ahead and get that put in. We'll thoroughly mix in the rennet, mixing for not more than a minute, and then we will let this set for 45 minutes, and the rennet then will set the milk up into a curd. It's been 45 minutes and I believe the milk is set up, so it's time to check and see if we have a clean break. So let's see what we got here. Wow, that looks real good. That looks real good. Now we're going to cut the curd. We cut it this way, then this way, and then diagonally. Takes a little bit of time. I want it to be about 1/2 inch cubes when I'm done. The curds have been cut, and now I will let this set for 5 minutes for those curds to heal. The curds have had time to heal, and now I have the pot back in the double boiler, and we're going to begin heating that up. We will be stirring continuously and very gently at first, and then a little more aggressively later on. So let's begin stirring. And while we're doing this initial stirring, if we see any curds that are larger than what we wanted, we just cut them with the spoon. They cut very easily right now. Cutting the curds uniformly is one of the more difficult things to do in home cheese making. It's been a half hour. I have been stirring the entire time. I have reached the target temperature of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll continue to stir this for another 15 minutes. I have stirred the curds for another 15 minutes, and I think we're ready to begin washing the curds. So we remove the whey down to the level of the curd. This is a similar process to making a Gouda, except with the Colby, what we'll be trying to do is to reduce the temperature of the curds. So we will be, once we get the whey removed, we will be adding room temperature water to the curds. I have removed the whey down to the level of the curds, and now I will begin adding room temperature water to try to cool the curds down to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The first washing is done, and now we drain the whey back down to the level of the curds again and begin a second washing process. And with that process, we will be adding water, cold water, instead of room temperature water, to try to cool the curds down even farther. We want to try to get the curds down to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The curds are down to the proper temperature, and now I will just continue to stir them for another 15 minutes. It's time to get these curds in the mold. So I've lined my mold with cheesecloth, and we'll try to get these poured into the mold. I hope they fit. Well, with a little bit of persuasion, I got them all in the mold. So now let's put on the follower and put it in the press. The first pressing is done with 10 pounds of pressure for about 20 minutes. And there is quite a bit of whey coming off. It's been in the press for 20 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure, which is not very much pressure at all. And because the curds were relatively cool when they went in, it's not going to be set up very well. So we have to be extremely careful when we flip the cheese. That's what we're going to do now. Take out the follower. Gently remove the cheese. And then we're going to flip it over. That's not good. And we'll put that back in the mold and get it back in the press after I sanitize that mold. So after sanitizing the mold and putting it back in the press for another 30 minutes, we're ready to take it out and flip it again. When we get it flipped, we'll be putting it back in at 30 pounds of pressure for 1 hour. And we'll try not to dump this on the floor again, huh? And there it is, ready to go back in the press. It's time to flip this cheese again. This time I'm going to flip it and put it back in under 50 pounds of pressure. Looks like it's forming up pretty well. And I will flip it one more time and then leave it in the press overnight. In the next clip, I am taking the cheese out of the cheese press, and I say that we're going to air dry it for 2 or 3 days. But I missed the step where we need to brine the cheese for 12 hours. Luckily, I remembered in time, and the cheese is now in the brine. It's the next morning, and the cheese has been in the press for 12 hours. So it's time to take this Colby out and see what we have. Let's take the weight off and see how it looks. It's turned a nice yellow color. And it looks pretty good. So we'll leave this to air dry for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be waxing it and putting it in the cheese cave. It should be ready to try in about 2 months. So we'll see you then. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up. Please leave a comment and please subscribe. We'll see you again next time.